All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Asphalt Legends patch notes video. Today, we have what might be the most exciting update we've gotten in a very, very long time. I'm not counting Unite itself because that was an expansion or whatever. But anyway, let's get right into the biggest piece of news, and that is what you're seeing on screen right now. Yes, San Diego Harbor from Asphalt 8 is remastered and back in Asphalt Legends. However, you'll notice once I get to this part of the footage, there is a bit of a surprise. Yes, we have teleporting now in Asphalt Legends, and the first place is into the Cairo section in the pyramids, which is pretty cool. But then my mind was absolutely blown during this part when you get teleported to, yes, my home, Los Angeles, specifically the LA River track from Asphalt 6 and Asphalt 7. Now, unfortunately, it's not the whole track, it's just this section, but we did it. We got Los Angeles in Asphalt Legends before GTA 6, so I consider that a big win. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the track because I think that deserves its own separate video, so be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for that video coming later on. Alright, now we're going to take a look at all of the new cars coming in this update, and believe me, you guys are in for a very special treat. Alright, so I do want to point out a couple of things before we get into the new cars. Yes, I know I'm doing it again, but anyway, firstly, there will be a watermark. This is because Gameloft was very kind and gave me access to these images a little early, so I want to protect the assets and whatnot. But the other thing I want to mention is that in the description down below, you'll find a couple of links to my social media channels if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Asphalt news. But if you'd also like to see some cool car photography and maybe a special announcement coming soon, you can find that on my Instagram. And if you want to hang out with the community, you can also join the Discord, which again, the link will be in the description down below, and you can hang out with the community and say hi as well. All right, so let's just kick it off with the big bad boy. This is the Arish Imperium. This is the new flagship car, not only for the game, but it's also the flagship for the Drive Syndicate, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You can see very, very good top speed, very, very good acceleration, and handling and nitro are both pretty mediocre, but what you would expect for a very high-end S-Class car. So I'd expect this to perform very well, especially considering it's going to be the new flagship car. I don't know how crazy it's going to be. Some of the other lower ranked S-Class cars do very well and actually overperform compared to the rank. So I'm curious to see how the actual in-game performance of this car will be regardless of its stats. However, I will say overall, it gives me kind of Devil 16 vibes considering well over 300 miles per hour. However, this does have significantly better acceleration than the Devil, so I'm gonna be curious to see if it's actually going to be quite deadly in multiplayer. Next up, we have a Ferrari Classic going down to B-Class. This is the F12 Berlinetta, and it's quite a decent B-Class car. It's not a king or anything. In fact, it's ranked quite below the Huracan, if I remember correctly. So not anything too crazy, but quite a nice addition in terms of the Ferrari lineup we already have in Asphalt Legends. But the top speed at 220 is quite good for B-Class. The acceleration is pretty good, I would say. Handling and nitro are also pretty darn good as well. So I think this could be a pretty competent multiplayer car, but overall just a nice addition to anyone's garage if you're a Ferrari fan. Next up, speaking of Ferraris, we have the Lego Technic Ferrari FXXK, and unlike the actual FXXK we have in the game, this is ranked well below it in C-Class. So you can see that at 3,500, it's actually going to be right next to the Ferrari F40, ironically, but I would say it has pretty okay stats. The nitro would be the standout feature for me. The acceleration is also above average for where it is at in terms of C-Class. I wouldn't expect anything crazy in terms of performance from this car, but again, kind of like the Ferrari collectors, if you're a Lego collector, you'll enjoy this car in your garage. And yep, we're getting a second Lego car in this update, this time around the Lamborghini Revuelto, And unlike the FXXK, it's actually ranked pretty similarly to its counterpart, although that is a pretty good, almost king of B class. This time around, it's a little bit in the middle. It's going to be sitting above the Carrera GT though at a minimum, so that's quite good. You can see the acceleration again, quite a good standout feature, but the handling and nitro are also pretty well balanced. 50 isn't that great, but you can see the handling stat is quite good, I would say, so that's quite nice. It should be a pretty agile car. Next up, and pretty rare for an update, we have yet another almost king of the game, this time the Mosler Super GT, a throwback to Asphalt 8, and it's also an over 300 mph car, which I don't think we've gotten two of those cars in one update before, but you can see well over 500 kilometers an hour, so above 300 mph at the very least, which is quite good. It also has pretty decent acceleration to back it up as well. And just like all of the other high-end S-Class cars in the game, pretty mediocre handling and nitro stats, but again, it's just going to come down to how it actually performs in-game. So I'm curious to see how we're going to get this car. I'm going to discuss how you unlock it and all the different events in a little bit later in the video, but a very, very good addition to the game, I do have to say. However, I have been saving the best for last, and we have three throwback Asphalt Legacy cars to show for you guys, and these are really special. First up, if you've played Asphalt 8, you'll know this. The Mercedes-Benz Silver Lightning is making a return into Asphalt Legends, and I'm so excited. Unfortunately, it's not a super crazy S-Class car like it was in A8, but it's a pretty darn good A-Class car, sitting just above the Ford Team Fordzilla P1 in terms of rank. And you can see its standout features are going to be the acceleration and handling. Those are quite good for A-Class. The top speed of 243 mph is also above average for A-Class, so this is going to be a beast in terms of multiplayer performance. Next up, the second to last most important car of this update, the Citroën Survolt. This is a huge throwback, especially if you've played any of the really old games like Asphalt 6, and it also made a return in Asphalt 8 as well. This is my second favorite car in this update. Now, I was initially kind of upset at the performance. You can see at just below 2,800 rank, it's not really going to push anything crazy in terms of C-Class performance. In fact, it's even below the Dodge Viper ACR in terms of rank, so not anything crazy. It has decent acceleration and pretty good handling, which I would expect for a Citroën car in Asphalt Legends, but it's not going to be anything crazy. However, then I remembered that the Citroën Survolt was always one of the beginning cars in previous games, so then I actually thought to myself, this makes a lot of sense, and hopefully this means that way more players are going to unlock it and maybe get a throwback for nostalgia. I'm personally really excited about this car. This was one of the first electric cars that I looked at and went, yeah, these can be kind of cool. So I'm really excited for the Citroën Survolt to make another return to Asphalt. And last, but certainly not least, we have the flagship car from Asphalt 6 Adrenaline, the personal fan favorite Asphalt game for me, and I know many of you as well, the Pagani Zonda Cinque. And this was the most exciting thing for me in terms of cars for this update. I was almost crying when I saw this, not really, but anyway, I am super excited about this car. You can see that it's a pretty decently ranked A-Class car, not a king for sure, which is a little disappointing, but once you look at the stats, it makes a little more sense, but it is nothing to slouch at. We have 230 base top speed, so pretty average for A-Class in terms of there. The acceleration is okay, not hitting the 80 mark like I would want to see for an A-Class car, but handling and nitro are both insane for A-Class. So honestly, this could be quite good for multiplayer, especially in Platinum League, depending on how it's placed there in MP1. But regardless, I need to unlock this car. I don't know what I'm gonna do to have to get it. Well, we're gonna talk about that actually in a little bit, but I really want this car. This is the most exciting car in this update for me personally. All right, now that we've covered San Diego Harbor, the LA remake, and of course the new cars, let's talk about all of the other things coming from this update. So firstly, the Asphalt Urban GT remake is also making a return on a website. So I'm sure there will be a link somewhere when the update drops where you can go play. This was, I believe, included in the 15th anniversary as well. So not anything new, but it's nice to see it make a return and it's fun to play. So give it a shot when it releases. Now let's talk about Drive Syndicate. We are on the 12th Drive Syndicate, and as I explained before, the Arish Imperium is the flagship car for this Drive Syndicate. Now, this is going to last from the 28th of July to the 25th of August. So again, the typical month-long endeavor. This time around, again, the Arish is going to be that flagship car, but also included is the Citroën DS Servolt, the Apollo Intensa Emotion. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. Anyway, the McLaren 600 LT, the Pagani Zonda Cinque, and the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute. Now, this is quite exciting because the Apollo IE and the 600 LT are both previous cars. So if you have those cars at pretty good star counts, chances are it's going to make your journey a lot easier, and maybe you can unlock some of the later cars like the Zonda, the Jesko Absolute maybe, and just maybe even reaching the Imperium. Now personally, again, my goal is that Zonda Cinque, and I do have quite decent stats on the Apollo and the McLaren, so I got my fingers crossed that maybe, just maybe, I'm sure the DS Servolt is that first car that you can get pretty easily, but hopefully I can get to the Zonda Cinque. Next up, in terms of big events happening, we are going to have a spotlight event, this time for the 20th anniversary. Now, there are going to be 20 featured cars from this spotlight. I have no idea how they're going to be balancing the currency and the game mode and the shop and all of that, but I'm not going to list all the cars anyway because it's too many. I will say though, the highlights include the Bugatti 110, the Deus Vian, and the Bugatti Chiron as well. So there are a ton of other really good cars in that lineup. So hopefully you can get your hands on some of them, and some of these cars are beginner cars as well, so chances are you won't need to dump your currency on all of them. You can sort of pick and choose what cars you want to spend in the shop. Next up, for the two special events remaining, we're going to have a Aston Martin V12 Vantage Grand Prix. Finally, this one is back, and I believe that's one of the cars I missed out on for the key, so I'm really excited. Hopefully I can get it because it does look pretty cool, and we are going to have a special hunt for the Lamborghini SC18. There are, of course, going to be a ton of daily events as well. I'm not going to go over all of them, but we're going to have some more Lego Technic events this time around for the Lamborghini Revuelto, in addition to the Ferrari FXXK as well. There's also going to be a epic hunt for the Zenvo TS1 GT and a couple of other car hunts as well, featuring the Ital-designed Da Vinci, the Porsche 911 Turbo 50 Years, and the Jaguar XE SV Project 8. What a mouthful. Now we're gonna get into the more, I'll say, interesting things. There is going to be a new pass introduced. They're calling it the Ultimate Pass. Now, for this time, they're introducing it with the Pagani Zonda Cinque. Now, I'm not super upset at this. Initially, I was worried that this was going to be exclusive, but considering that it's going to be in the Drive Syndicate, I'm sure you'll be able to unlock it through there, so you won't have to buy the Ultimate Pass to get the Zonda. I'd really be disappointed if that were the case, but hopefully not. Anyway, just like the Legend Pass, it's going to get you a ton of currency, fuel, card packs, all that sort of stuff, but it's just going to be above and beyond what you would normally get in the Legend Pass. Speaking of Legend Pass, there are going to be changes. This time around, they are positive, so this is quite interesting. They're not doing the shrinkflation route of just giving you less for more money. They're actually just going to give you more, so more credits, more tokens, more blueprints, and a couple of other wildcard blueprints as well. So that's quite nice. It means that if you were feeling a little lackluster about the Legend Pass, you can know that you'll get a little more bang for your buck this time around. Now, in terms of multiplayer changes, the World Series is getting quite a number of notable things. Firstly, there's going to be a 5th round and a bonus round. Secondly, the car filters are being removed, so that's quite interesting, but they also say they are removing the free try cars. And this is a little disappointing because it means that if you're stuck in a situation where some of the classes you don't have a king for, you won't really have one of those free try cars to get you through that section of multiplayer. I don't know how they're going to split things up, So I'm curious to see how that's going to be handled, but removing the free try cars initially for me is a little disappointing, so hopefully they find a way to balance that out. They're also changing the green streak mode, so this is the mode where if you're in first place you get less nitro. This time around you're going to get more nitro than what you would previously get, which is nice because previously you would get 0 nitro if you were in first place, which was really annoying. They are also increasing the series score or season score gains if you're in a smaller lobby. This was super frustrating because you could come first 5 times in a row, but it wouldn't be the same as coming first place in a full 8-player lobby. So this is a very welcome change. You'll also be able to directly buy import parts. So if you are lacking maybe an import part to get a gold or maybe to meet a certain rank requirement, you can now buy them directly for tokens, which I would actually say is a good change. Most people have tons of import parts anyway, so if you just need 1 or 2 extra ones that you've been lacking, this is a good solution. Alright, so that's about it in terms of notable changes for this update. I know this was a huge video, so thank you for sticking around towards the end. Honestly, like I said at the start of this video, I think this is one of the best updates we've seen in a very, very long time for Asphalt Legends. Now, there are going to be a couple of criticisms. I'll talk about those in a later video, but this was just the informative patch notes video before the update goes live. So again, thank you to Gameloft for giving me access, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about all the new cars, and especially what you think of the San Diego Harbor remake in the comment section down below, and I will catch you all later.